Our chief investigator, Cheryl Fiandaca, has been covering the story from the very beginning and breaking several of these details before we learn them today. She joins us now on the phone. Cheryl, your reaction to what we just heard in court?
Well, you know, Liam, I mean, we knew that they had quite a bit of evidence because they already laid out the fact that they found a bloody knife. They found some evidence in the basement of the home. And we reported earlier some of the other evidence that they did find from those dumpsters taken from his mother's Swampscott condominium. But there's so much more. You have all of the searches that Kate mentioned that he was doing in the days after no one had seen Ana. They have all the rest of the blood and DNA evidence that now appear to show that Brian Walshe's DNA was mixed with his wife's DNA. All of that pointing to a very, very substantial case in this investigation. The police have been working tirelessly on this, as we know that they have checked surveillance, they checked his Easy Pass, they know where he has been in the days after the last person to see Ana, which appears to be on New Year's Eve. And they were able to follow the trail and collect the evidence in this case.
It seems they're not going to be able to recover a body. Is that what you took away from this, that they have him disposing of trash in both Abington and in the Swampscott area, but they believe the trash bags that he threw out in Abington contained her body and that those have been incinerated?
Right, and we knew that pretty much early on, Liam. You know, we know that investigators had gone to a trash site that does incinerate trash, and we understand from our sources that the police found nothing there. They got there too late. But they found plenty of other evidence at the other facilities with the trash from his mother's condominium dumpster in Swampscott, and it's very substantial. I mean, 10 bags containing blood and a lot of other evidence, including items that she was wearing, including documents that she carried with her. All of it leading up to a very substantial, what appears to be a very substantial criminal case.
And just dozens of searches, Cheryl, about how to dispose of a body and how long is someone missing before you can inherit. Just really disturbing search after search in the days after she was reported missing. And then in December that he had searched about the best state to divorce someone. None of this looking good in the case for Brian Walshe.
True. I mean, at this point, we don't know whatever other evidence that the defense could come up with in this case, but it certainly seems like this is a very substantial, circumstantial case. And a lot of people always wonder, circumstantial evidence, can you be found guilty with it? Well, it happens every day, yes. And in this case, there's quite a bit of it. You know, between the physical evidence, between what they found in the home, what they found at the trash site, the Internet searches, the rest of how they pieced together his movements in the days that she was reported missing, it adds up to quite a bit.
Cheryl, is it significant that they won't have a body in this case? When you talk to a lot of people on the street who've been asking us about this case, they say, can he be convicted without a body? And it seems like the key to this case at this point will be all of those searches that he made in the days after she went missing.
Well, absolutely. Defendants are convicted without bodies all the time. I mean, there's a long history of cases that show that. In this particular case, not only do they have as you said, the searches showing dismemberment and how do you get rid of a body and all of the searches, and there appear to be quite a number, showing that what he was doing and what the plan was, and that's what the prosecution is laying out. And then you have the trash bags that are filled with blood and DNA that shows that something happened. I mean, there's an awful lot of blood from what my sources are telling me, and an awful lot of evidence in those bags. And, you know, part of what we learned today is not all of what the prosecution's case is. I mean, they only have to show today in court that they have enough probable cause, which means they have enough evidence to believe that he committed these crimes. These are just allegations. They now have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt at trial that he committed these crimes. So the standard is different, and right now the standard is very low, only to prove that you believe, based on the evidence that you have, that this person committed this crime. That's what the prosecutors have to say. Beyond that, all the rest of the evidence, and there will be a lot more, will be coming out during either a probable cause hearing, or if he's directly indicted, which means that the case would go directly to Superior Court, it would come out at a trial or a hearing.
Now, Cheryl, you've been following this case since the start. You have broken several big stories about what is happening here in this case. I'm curious to you today, what was the most shocking thing that you had heard, or do you think is the most significant in what prosecutors laid out today that you hadn't heard yet?
Well, most of it I had heard. The amount, I would say the number of searches I was not aware of. I know that we know that he did do some searching about how to get rid of a body and dismemberment. But the number of searches, that's very significant in this case. The number of bags that they found at that trash facility, 10 bags containing all of those other materials that show that the blood not only matched hers, but her bag was there, items that would have been in her purse was there, jewelry, clothing, all of it pointing to the fact that this obviously was a crime that was committed, and then these were the remnants of that were dropped at this site.
And also,
so
and also, Cheryl, that he was driving around Abington and was seen at various different complexes dumping what appeared to be, prosecutors say, heavy bags of garbage in various different dumpsters there in Abington and Brockton.
Right, and unfortunately, because of the late start on this case, police weren't able to retrieve that before it had all been shredded and incinerated, and a lot of that evidence is now gone. But the other evidence that they have, including what they found in the home, involving blood and the knife and the finding all the rest of it, is pretty significant in this case.
Cheryl, you have your law degree. You've been covering criminal law for a long time. How significant is it that we will likely never know the cause of death, the specific cause of death, because that could play into whether this is first-degree murder, did he plan it, is it second-degree murder? That could play into this, could it not?
It could. I mean, one of the things that they'll be looking at is that it seems like there's a lot of electronic evidence. We now know about the searches. They'll be looking at her phone, at his phone, at whatever exchanges they may have had with other people, between themselves and with other people that may or may not have been aware of the problems in their relationship. They'll be looking at the computers in the home, whether she had a computer at work, and what evidence that they might be able to retrieve from that. All of that can show whether or not this is leading up to maybe a number of arguments that they were having. Maybe this was planned. Maybe there's more evidence that didn't come out today. And as I said, the prosecution doesn't have to tell the judge everything it has today. It only has to show that based on the evidence that they do have, this little bit of it that we'll share with you, we have enough evidence to show that he should be charged with these crimes. As to whether or not he's convicted, there will be a lot more evidence in this case.
And Cheryl, that his seat, police saw what appeared to be a plastic liner in the car with the seats down. Lots and lots of very damaging evidence shown by prosecutors today here in court, and lots of evidence that they say proves that he, in fact, killed his wife. Your thoughts on exactly what they had to say today?
A massive amount of evidence, Kate. I mean, we heard, all of the searches. There were quite a number, and it was over a long period of time, hour after hour, searching for more information on how to get rid of a body, how to dismember a body, how long does it take to decompose. All of that shows what he was doing. That's what prosecutors are going to say. That's what he was doing in the hours after this murder happened. And then beyond that, how he went to the store and purchased rugs, purchased the cleaning supplies, came home. The prosecution believes he dismembered the body there, brought it into bags, transported it, and left it in all of these different locations, knowing that he wasn't able to be tracked. I mean, we know he was on an electronic bracelet as a result of a criminal case out of federal court on an art fraud indictment. But that bracelet did not have GPS tracking, so all it would be able to do was notify or show that he was no longer in the home, but not where he went. So prosecutors and police had to piece all of that together, and they have all of that evidence showing him on surveillance, tracking him in all those different ways, and then obviously collecting the trash from his mother's dumpster from the condo in Swampscott, and collecting all of that blood, DNA, and other evidence that we've been reporting. And it is, very, very disturbing.
If you are just joining us here on CBS News Boston, the husband of missing Cohasset mother Ana Walshe has just been arraigned on charges of murder and the illegal transport of a body. We just learned a lot during this arraignment in Quincy District Court. Prosecutors say Brian Walshe searched how long before a body starts to smell, how to stop a body from decomposing, 10 ways to dispose of a body, as well as hacksaw, best tool to dismember. And the prosecutors laying out their case, they believe that Brian Walshe killed his wife on the morning of New Year's Day and then disposed of her body through trash bags. They believe they will never be able to recover the body, but they did recover trash containing some of Ana Walshe's items and DNA of both Ana and Brian Walshe. That was the case laid out this morning. We're talking to our chief investigative reporter, Cheryl Fiandaca. Cheryl, what do we know about the history of domestic violence allegations against Brian Walshe before this most recent alleged murder in this case?
Well, we know that, that some friends have said that there was some tension based on the fact that they were having some financial problems. I mean, he had a $500,000 restitution that he owed on the art fraud case that he pled guilty to. We know that they sold a home and were renting the home that they were living in. We also know that they took some of the money from that, and she bought a home in Chevy Chase, Maryland in the spring of 2022 for $1.3 million. We know that she was living most of the week in Washington, D.C., away from her children, away from her husband, and commuting back and forth. And he also had the sentencing hanging over his head on the federal art fraud charges that, he was out awaiting sentencing on. So all of that leads to, obviously, a lot of pressure and stress in the relationship and what was going on in that home.
Cheryl, what's next in this case?
Well, what's next in this case is they'll have a status hearing, which you heard that it will just be virtual. It'll be a question of turning over evidence and documents and whatever else they have to the defense, because it's called discovery, and the prosecution is obligated to turn over all of the evidence that they have to the defense, and the defense will then prepare what they will do going forward with that information.
All right,
whether
Cheryl,
they bring their own experts in to challenge DNA,
Cheryl.
whether they bring their own experts in to show that what the prosecution alleges is not what happened at all. That'll be up to them. One of two things will happen, and I think you heard that most likely this will be what's called a direct indictment, which means that they will bring this case to a grand jury. A grand jury will vote to directly indict him on these murder charges, which would take the case out of Quincy District Court and bring it to Superior Court, where the rest of the case will unfold.